Hey guys, and welcome to the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report, the first podcast to bring you the local offshore, nearshore, and inshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. We got a great fishing report lined up for you guys this week, but first let's hear who's making the show possible. Do you want to make a difference in your waterways? Toadfish is the only brand that cleans coastal waters with every purchase. Having already planted almost 300,000 square feet of oyster habitat, Toadfish is leading the charge in conservation with thoughtfully designed, eco-friendly products in a mission to protect the waters that we call home. Visit gdo.deals/toadfish, and 15% off will be applied to your cart at checkout. Toadfish, let's put them back. Listen up. AFTCO has a promotional gift for all Great Days Outdoors Podcast Network listeners. They're now offering a camo sunglasses cleaner cloth with any purchase of AFTCO products. For those cold, wet, or windy days, I especially enjoy my weatherproof fabric barricade jacket, as well as my Helm insulated fishing gloves. All you got to do to get your coupon code is text LCBFR to 779-345-2918. You'll get subscribed to our email list, and we'll send you the promo code via email. All right, y'all. Welcome to the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report, part of the Great Days Outdoors Podcast Network. I'm your host, Luke Barton, and each week we'll be talking with expert charter guides and subject matter experts about what's happening in our local waters. On this show, we advocate for sustainable fishing practices aimed at keeping this amazing fishery healthy and thriving for generations to come. As the fishing season adjusts to cooler temps, some target species are just heating up. So buckle up for another great episode. Let's jump in and find out what's been biting. All right, y'all, it's time to start this week's show off with a bang. We're going to bring back one of our dear contributors, Captain Bill Pappas, with Playing Hooky Charters. Welcome back to the show, Captain Bill. How are we doing today?
Hey, what's going on, Luke? How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. Here it is, November the 5th. It's a big day in our country. Hopefully everybody got out there and exercised their right to vote. And voting is important, but so is catching fish. So what have you been up to on Playing Hooky? What you guys been seeing?
I got a pretty good report for you guys. We went sword fishing to close out the Ocean East Swordfish Tournament, and we ended up, like I said, I don't know if I remember telling y'all, we had a 100-pound fish that we went out for fun the day before our tournament. Ended up being, it would have been it would have been an $8,000 fish.
Ooh.
It was definitely an $8,000 fish, or 6,800 or something like that. If we'd have cleaned the hole, because nobody registered anything for the small boat category, so we would have definitely had that if that had been our fishing team. But we didn't call it in the day before, and we intentionally fished not in the tournament the day before, and we're honorable, so that's how that works.
Yep.
And the next day we went out for our tournament day and got skunkalinoed. So in the same spot we caught it, but there was a commercial boat all ripping them up in that spot. He had buoys all over us with GPSs. He found us pretty good. Anyway, and then I got another report for you. Is we've been drum fishing, and we did some wreck fishing recently.
Oh, wow.
The drum fishing tapered off for one of our trips, and we had like a couple big ones and a lot of sharks. And then we went out to the wrecks, and was interesting at the wrecks. I went out to the Triangle on an afternoon, and on the ride out crossing the channel, there was so much stuff busting and breaking the water. There was turns, and look, I was out a little further later in the day, and I saw a lot of the size of the false albacores, and they weren't bigger than the Spanish mackerel we catch inside the inlet. Outside of the inlet, along the ocean front. So these false albacores weren't that big, but what I saw busting at the channel, guys, was bigger. I'm not calling out giant bluefins, but I don't know if they were schoolies or what. It was something big, and this time of year, there's not much to it. I said, what is it, stripers? I mean, really, it's
right. What could it be?
It might have been bluefin, man. I had a group of guys ready to bottom fish, and I didn't have any gear for that. So, I had something I could have thrown a 50 or something, but it would have wasted time on our trip. So I knew not to. Even though if you get excited, you just end up lowering their overall catch later.
Yeah.
So anyway, we get out there and we go fishing. We see the albacores busting everywhere. We eventually see just schoolie albacore, the little false albacores everywhere busting. We get out near the Triangle and we start fishing. Catch a couple sea bass. It's going pretty good. And we go over to another spot. And I'm telling you what, there was so many hogfish and pigfish out there that I've never, I'm talking every other drop was getting hooks cleaned out and catching. I'm talking 8 to 10, 12-inch, big old porgies. And
wow.
They were catching, we were chopping them back and catching the bass on them. And then a school of Cadillac mahis came by. Now, Cadillacs or gaffers are just big ones,
Oh, yeah.
So I'm looking down and it's like 5, 6 or 7 Cadillac Coupe de Villes just stretched out. I go, chum, quick. Russ is so good. He just instantly grabs some chum and throws it in the water at these things, circles them up. We're about to try to get some bites on them. They're kind of squeamish. We got a lot of stuff going on, and they kind of stay by the boat. And I'm like, man, the right situation with the right stuff, they're still fishing. It was 65-degree water,
Oh,
30
wow.
miles out. So, a lot of yellow grass lines still coming through. So, I mean, if anybody out there quick enough, you could take a troll and catch something, that's for sure. And those were, man, they were fun. They were gappers. All the whole fleet of them was
Mm.
or were. So anyway, came back in, saw some more stuff busting on the way, and called that a day. Then we went to the islands, went towards the bay, and did some around that area and the Bay Bridge Tunnel, and did some drum fishing. And the drum fishing actually picked up real good with the schoolies were biting. And there were some thick ones, 30-inch to 25s are the ones you want to see, the big thicker ones.
Yep.
We put a bunch of those in the boat. We had 12 keepers
Oh,
somewhere
wow.
in that zone. Yeah. And everybody got two each on the trip, or two or three each. And even some gray trout popped up in the mix. Just reeling in on the bottom baits, reeling them in. We were getting a few bites.
Yeah, you don't see gray trout too often these days, do you?
We know 14s and 16s. They weren't understanding why I was screaming about a gray trout, but I was like, woo, because you just don't see gray trout. And
No, you don't.
and I was like, those are keeper. I already knew what a keeper was compared to the dinks the 12-inch dinks that used to get wiped out. Yeah, it was cool to see, man. So there's a little forecast for you, little action, a little couple different zones of fishing for you.
Yeah, definitely a flurry of activity, not a skunkalino or whatever that was you
Yeah,
said that
man.
happened on the day of the swordfish tournament. So you were saying you were headed out and you were talking about crossing the channel. What were you referring to there?
Oh, okay. There's the shipping lane, which is it's the CB line. It's the one they got this CB buoy, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the red and greens coming
Yep.
in from the ocean to the Chesapeake Bay. Now it splits up and makes the Thimble Shoals channel, and you get the Baltimore channel.
Yep.
And I'm talking about the mouth of the bay to the ocean buoy, the CB, which is the zero, I guess.
Okay, at the very end of the CB line, which is roughly like what, like 8 or 9 miles out. So you were roughly like 8 or 9 miles out when you were crossing that channel, headed to the.
We were heading to the tower at that point in time. We were literally heading right for the tower. That was where we were heading to
Got
start
it.
the day. And then we changed up and went to the triangle because it was good
Got
enough
it.
weather laid down. But yeah, yeah, man, right there at the channel, I saw. I mean, there was birds. It was a good pile, and it was some gannets, real low gannets hitting the top surface bite,
Hmm.
dumping underneath there, and a lot of turns. That's what you want to see is picking turns, and I mean, I don't know,
What are picking turns?
the little picking. Well, you know how birds pick. Well,
Yeah.
turns are a certain kind of bird, but when they're picking and they're just flying and they're running in a line and they're picking and picking, and one gets in line again, then one gets in line again, they're picking away. They're just
Oh,
when the turns are picking and they're really low on the water, they're following a school of bait, which are being
got it.
surfaced. Most times are being surfaced by I think in the wintertime it's blue. Used to be the markers for the bluefins back a
Yeah.
few years back when they would come inshore around here when the stripers were still here, 2013, 2012.
Yeah, that gets me fired up because I remember last year when we were bluefin, fishing and we were seeing that scenario unfold where you got that big pile of bait and all of a sudden the birds are just like it almost looks like they're like dropping bombs. They're like in a sequence of like almost like rainfall or waterfall, just pow 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 hitting the water. It's pretty cool. But for those that are listening, to get located, you're coming out of Rudy, so you're kind of running like a north northeast line, up across the CB channel.
Yeah, about 88 degrees coming up right towards the tower. So it's pretty much almost east. You're almost east. You're just a little bit less than east.
Got it. Okay.
But yeah, it's gonna be straight east.
So that means there's some life and activity starting to kind of come in close. That's maybe some signs of some good things to come here in the next couple of weeks. That gets me real excited. And then you said you were catching a bunch of, did you say hogfish?
We call them in the inlet pigfish. Because they only catch you when you pull them out of the water. I think they're the porgy family, man. Porgies
Yeah,
usually got the spikes, but these are the darker color ones with and there were some lighter color ones. They had some meat on them. Definitely, trust me, they had meat on them. They look like the porgies from up north. I
okay,
swear they did. But
that's
they were
cool.
biting. They were eating the bait left and right.
Man, that's
And
exciting. So triangles this time of year, going after sea bass, folks can certainly go back in time and hear all the different things, the sea bass recipes that you've talked about and the different types. But just quick refresher course for those that might be thinking about gearing up for a sea bass trip. First and foremost, the sea bass season, is it still live and how much longer does it last for?
that's a great question. You're still allowed to keep 15 per person, and they still have to be 13 inches to keep,
Hmm.
which is really a meaty fish, man. It really is. Yeah, in my opinion, they could change the limit the other direction and give you more and still have more fish. But anyway, that's another story. And the season ends actually on December 31st this year.
Oh,
So you've
cool.
got so you've got some more time and some more trips, and the bluefin come in. We're gonna be fishing for swordfish. We're gonna be fishing for yeah, I don't know if you've seen in New Jersey, and they're up there smacking the tuna still really well. And they got to get down here somehow. And I know they don't anyway. They don't fly them in with airplanes late at night there, but yeah.
Yeah.
But if they it's the day, I can't help it. Anyway, if these tunas got to make it by us somehow. And unless they make a huge rain, not today either for rainbows, but if they make a huge bow around us and don't go around our area, I'd love to get a chance. I've seen December tuna in the past. It's on my book where I always write the catches down every single year to be like, this could happen, this could happen.
Yep.
And in December, the two yellowfin have come through, and we went out there and smeared them. So loaded bags of tuna and caught as much as you wanted. And I called a few boats over, some buddies, and did well. So I don't know. I have a faithful feeling there could be a good offshore, and you get the bluefin coming in, and those are going to be fun. And the sea bass will turn on. The sea bass have been good. We just had we had a really good catch the other day for the guys that were fishing. So, and it was an actual bonus flounder came up on the first drop.
I saw that, man. That's exciting. That guy had a huge smile on his face. He
He
was
was
stoked.
so, it's the biggest flounder of his life. People out there
Absolutely.
fishing, to catch the biggest fish of their life.
I got to give you credit too, man, because I went with my good buddy Dave and his son. His name is Luke as well too. I mean, just ate up with fishing. They're just loving it so much. And we picked a pretty good weather day several weeks ago and went out there and we were on the wrecks at the triangles and we were fishing and it was kind of slow and we weren't really finding anything over 13 inches. And we were using, some diamond jigs with a little, cut piece of squid on it. And I was like, guys, remember, Captain Bill said, if we're not seeing, good numbers, let's take some time. We're here. We made it 30 something miles. Why don't we take some time and just do some circles around the wrecks? And so exactly what you recommended, we did. And sure enough, boom, we found that little cloud of fish 20-ish yards off the wreck. And then we just started working them. And before you know it, we had a really nice catch. And I just got it. It was cool, man. I was like, man, what a great tip, and to see it in action and to come into fruition, I was like, this is awesome.
That's killer, man. I was picturing it. I was literally picturing my machine and seeing you drive in a circle in my brain. I could see it because that's
Yep.
exactly how I tell you. That's what you got to do.
Oh yeah, and if I remember correctly, so the current was actually moving pretty good, north to south and across the wreck. And what we would find if you're picturing the water moving north to south
Oh
and
yeah.
a wreck sitting kind of east to west, it was on the up current west side off of that a little bit where they were just kind of piled up.
Yep, there's no rhyme. It's each current, each time of day, whatever's going on. They could be having a big smack talking contest, or someone's fighting over there in a corner, meet you in the corner at 3 o'clock. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You never know. There's why they're over where they
You
are.
never know, but it was cool. And then another neat thing that I figured out with that is that they weren't on the bottom, so they were a little ways up off the bottom. So it was kind of a fun experience to like find them a little bit suspended in the water column, a little ways off the wreck, and then like play around with your depths and paying attention to when you needed to start kind of like stopping your bait and jigging a little bit in order to get a bite.
Yeah, man, they like the jigs. The jigs. If everybody jigs, it works good. If everybody's bait fishing and one person jigs, it doesn't work so good.
No, and I do have a question for you. We got snagged a lot with those
Yeah.
those diamond jigs, and we
Uh,
lost several of them.
oh yeah.
Any pro tips on how to try to
Get them back.
limit that or get them back?
Yeah. The key is on days it's bumpy and blowing and your current's moving and you're having trouble holding the boat. That's the day you got to keep it off the bottom and just watch yourself with a jig. Now, honestly, if you have a bait rig, it's going to be more of trying to hold it there, get it there, make it quick, or find the most important thing, to be honest with you, is to try to memorize the wrecks that you flounder drift in the past or you've drift over in the past where you had moderate to medium snags or light snags on those bumpier days.
Hmm.
Now, on a day that it's not blowing and it's not crazy, you go to the ones that got the snags and they're good fish on. But you got to roll, the days that it's blowing and it's drifting really quick to try to not go to the super sharp, ultra snag, break off every rig you put down wreck. I don't care if it's red hot. You got to go ahead and pull the plug and go to something you can fish on that day.
That is wisdom because the I won't say the exact wreck it was, but the first wreck we came up to that didn't have as much activity but had some activity, it was not very snaggy. We had no problems. And then we went about six-ish, maybe three, no, it was like 3 or 4 miles to a nearby wreck, and that one was super snaggy. So that's very interesting you point that out that, these are different ships that are down on the bottom, and some are going to be snaggier than others.
Yeah.
So that's a great tip. And then when it comes to your bait rig, everyone's got different ways of tying those up. What's your typical go-to bait rig in terms of leader material, weight, size, and hook?
It's, one of our things I was just explaining to my mate, he's getting so good. I'm just like, sharpening him up like a spear, giving him extra little tips here and there, just to, put him in a next category
Yep.
one day, just to be great, just work real hard, see if you can get any better just between ourselves. But I was telling him that believe it or not, at the triangle, 2s and 3s work better. 2s and 3s. Like you have a double rig, fine. Triple, no bad, not bad. You put the 4s, they're just not as effective. And it's the same depth as if you went south or if you went 60 miles out, you're the same depth. But the 4-banger out there, 60 miles, kills it. To the south, where the water's really clear, the 4-banger kills it. Now, those fish are way high off the bottom. And I'm not saying the triangle fish are lower, but I just know maybe they are, maybe there's less. But I do know that if you run the 2-banger and the 3-banger, it's a lot more effective than the 4-banger is. And, we had the 4-bangers out there on a couple of the trips just recently, and I'm thankful they got popped off. Once they popped off, we put 2s and 3s on there. We were kicking some butt.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. You just know it from experience. You're just like, I don't know why, I don't know the rhyme or the reason, but this is how it works.
Yep. And then you just are you using cut squid, or do you have another bait of choice that you like to stick on?
I'll tell you what, that pigfish was working killer.
Ah, got
Yeah,
it.
yeah, man, that pigfish works killer, man. It was fire.
Were you using them live and whole, or were you cutting them up?
No, they're huge, man. Look, these were table fare. These were, I mean, we put a few in the pictures, but man, those were puny. There were some bigger than hand. I mean, bigger than spot. I mean, there were some big pigfish. They were not just the dark gray or
Yeah.
the ones. They were the whitish ones that look like the porgies from up north.
Wow.
Yeah, they were flooded in one spot. But I don't know, between you and I just found a piece of rubble on the ride out, and I was kind of fishing around. I was like, let me try this, and it was just a random spot I found, and it had never been fished. It was reef. It had everything on it. Everything was just biting like crazy. I was like, good God.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you couldn't keep them down long. I had to leave because we were catching bass too, but it was everything else was eating our bait up to death, and it was like, man, it was chaos. It was pretty fun.
That's like being on a road trip and everyone's trying to think about what they want to eat and you can't find anything. All of a sudden there's a golden corral. It's just like a little bit of everything down there. So
It was sweet, and when you're looking for bites, it was the one you wanted to go to, man. It was being hungry and looking at the golden crowd at the death. It was pretty cool to see that little turn on.
the houndfish, pigfish that you're talking about, were you using them for sea bass bait whole, or were you cutting them up?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we cut them up into
Okay,
strips, man. They were
got it.
strips were great. The chunks too big for the mouth aren't really going to work. And and houndfish, hogfish, and they're not hogfish either. They're for some reason they're called, we call them pigfish, and I
Yeah.
think they're really good. There's some people call them grunts. I
Hmm.
think, and I think they're really in the porgy family,
Yeah, it's
right?
I think you're right, and I think their actual name here is Orthopriestis chrysopteria.
I haven't heard nobody call them that at Rudy Rocks, man.
The pigfish, the hogfish, the piggy perch.
Who is the hogfish?
Yep, the redmouth grunt, sailor's choice. It's a species of marine ray finned, a grunt belonging to the family of, I'm going to butcher this, Hymolidae. Yeah, probably butcher that. So some marine biologist somewhere is like, get this guy off the radio. But yeah, that's awesome, man. And I know, like, I've talked to Captain Eric Myers before. He likes to throw those for cobia sometimes too. So definitely cool to know that's a good bait to use. So I'm looking at some pictures and I see your man Troy Shields with a huge smile on his face holding up a big, gorgeous blue line tile. How'd y'all get into those?
Oh yeah, we did go out. We had another trip too. We did some deep dropping. The season closes on the 15th of
Uh-huh.
November, so anybody who wants to get booked, we still have a little bit of availability left. And we went out there, went out 70 miles to the continental shelf, and went
Wow.
to the edge and went over dropping back and forth. And we were mainly trying to target some giant blue lines. So I went to a spot where you might not catch as much, but you'll catch some big ones. And
Hmm.
I gave that a whirl for a little while, and we had a really, healthy catch of big ones. And we thought we had a couple already in the box for paperwork. So then we slid over to my other spot, and my other spot that I found for years. It's a fun spot, but it's got a mix of big sea bass, giants, and it's got big tiles in it
Mm.
and mixture tiles. So we started pounding into our limit right there, and 5 per person. We had 5 guests, so it was 25. So they ended up having, and some of the smaller ones we threw back, let them revive and put them back. And so we ended up having a real healthy catch. We had enough time where they really wanted to get some big ones. So they didn't put too many back at all, but their catch fortunately turned out to be a lot of really nice ones.
That's awesome. Well, here's what I want to do. I want to get into some of this bay fishing that you did for redfish. But before we do that, I want to take a quick break and hear a word from this week's sponsor, and then we'll get right back in and talk about what was going on near shore. Hilton's Offshore Charts. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most recent, highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore fishing trip. So make the choice that professional captains all over the East Coast make and choose Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check them out at hiltonsoffshore.com. That's hiltonsoffshore.com. Hooked on fishing? Then you're part of the local community that Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle cares about serving and giving back to, providing you with the right selection for each season's target species. They're your one-stop shop to gear up with the best bait, tackle, and insider tips to catch your next trophy fish. You can fuel up right out front on the water and then chat with the crew inside for hot tips on where they're biting. So swing by today. Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle, where your fishing adventures start and finish with your trophy catch on their scales. All right, guys, well, welcome back. We are still with Captain Bill on Playing Hooky, and we had a really great report about what was going on offshore in the wrecks and whatnot. And you guys, versatile boat. Y'all do a little bit of everything. So I want to talk a little bit about what you guys have been seeing in the bay waters in terms of targeting some of these nice red drum. So talk to me through some of these recent trips you guys did and what's been happening with the red drum out there in the bay.
We did fish off of Sandbridge Beach as well. We like to fish that south spot off the False Cape. I mean, we do it time to time, when they flood down there, and we had some good scallop hammerhead catches with a family on a 4 hour, because it doesn't make sense to run to the bay for that little bit of time.
Right.
But and when we did go to the bay, like you asked originally, we had some good luck. We had one day we had 20 fish, and everybody on the boat had 2 citations each. I think I told you
Wow.
this on the
That's
report.
huge.
Yeah, and they had a couple guests had 3 that day, so it was just a crazy day worth of citations. It was huge. And then we went out there recently, and it was one of those, man, to be honest, even the pier fishermen, they weren't really catching the reds. It's been a couple weeks. We had a big blow, got really cold for a while, and it was just like, nobody's been fishing, no pictures, everybody getting skunked and having sharky days. So it's, you don't got boats, you don't got people, you don't got posts, people don't go. So what I decided was that it was going to be really warm in the offshore, and even the sea bass fishing would have been blown out or a little bit rough and bumpy. And I was like, you know what? I think it's been really warm enough where the bay's been so warm, and even overnight warm, where the fish that live in the bay and fish that live in the islands and on the bridge tunnel, they are going to be moving again. They're going to be swarming again. It was just my gut feeling. So I booked a walk on for a Friday, and it filled up instantly. And we went and fished it. And when we went there, my mate was even a little like, man, I hope, I was like, look, man, you'll never know till you go. You never do anything you don't try.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a gut feeling, man. And next thing you know, we had one huge run when we got there, man. Everyone was like, oh, it was a drum. Between you and I think it was probably like a 7-foot freight train shark, man. It was
Yeah.
he just ripped out all the spool and pow, and broke him off. So I don't know. We'll never know. But we did catch after that. It was like an hour lull. It was like it was gonna be nothing. Everyone was like, and then bingo, they started coming around and started biting. Now, look, the thing the listeners can learn too is when you're in a drum bite, and don't get me wrong, you want to clear rods and move stuff, don't ever clear the rods. Just move them around, get the guys moving, keep the rods out. Because when the drum come around, and you know this from fishing above in Chesapeake Bay and from being in the ocean in this area, they fish swim in schools. They swim in schools. They literally school up, and when you get one on, that's when you're going to get 2 on and 3 on. All right.
Got it. Yep.
Yeah. So even if it's hot and heavy, you're untangling or whatever you're doing, even if you have 2 in the boat, throw lines right back out if you can, and get back out there, because it's hot and heavy, and it's only that time. I mean, you can apologize later if you got to, hey, move, watch out, get that out of the net.
Yeah.
It's a little exciting, get a little bit of volumes raised maybe.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, would you rather catch 6 or 7 or catch 2? I mean, I don't know. Some people like catching 2 and being all cool about it. That was cool, fun. That was a great time. Let's be nice. But no, if you want to get 5 and 6, sometimes you're like, hey, move. You got to walk back. Everybody out of the area.
Yep.
Clear back. We're in a bite, we're in a bite. So
A little controlled chaos there, if you will.
controlled cast. And Russ Moreau is excellent, dude. He gets in there and he's in the pit and he's finally clear. He's like, watch out, guys, in your little room. He's really polite the whole time. And he clears everybody out, but he gets on it. He flings them in, knows when to fling them in. He wasn't even talking to guys. He was just moving so fast the other day, putting baits back out. We're on again. We're on again. We're on again. And
That's awesome.
we had 20 fish in the boat. We had a lot of keepers, so it was fun.
That is cool to see that there is that class of, what would you call them, schoolie or just, keeper size drum that are out there. Whereas all summer long, they were all like the big bulls, and you would almost never see fish that size.
Well, I gotta admit, this is rare for me, and I'm not any better than anybody else, but I've seen a lot. And over the years, I've seen the ones inside Rudy Inlet and up the Elizabeth River, and I've caught them a bunch at the Hot Ditch back in the day.
Oh
All
yeah.
the ones I saw were a skinnier version, right? The regular ones in the in Rudy Inlet. A couple nice ones in Rudy. Every so often, I'd get a thicker one to
Hmm.
slap a dog in the water or whatever. It'd be nice. But like you said, most of the ones in the ocean and out in the bay, the big are big. You
Yep.
get a couple in this, but these ones we were catching the other day were the mediums. Like
Yeah.
you see the mediums that are just like they were literally 24 to 30, like right in this zone of like they were tall, they were wide, they were
Yeah.
risky, and they were fun fighting for the guys on the tackle we had, and everybody was stoked. They had a great time. Little kid was laughing and having a great time.
I'm looking at some pictures now, man. It is all smiles, and there is something about that size puppy drum that's just a blast, especially if you're able to get down there on like a little bit lighter tackle, like back it off just a little bit. It is a fight that will, leave a print in your brain where you're like, man, that was a good time because they just pull so hard, especially on light tackle. But what's interesting too is like you're talking about like the size, like. I've definitely seen some puppy drum in the inlets, and they do tend to be, they're decent size, but they're not like these. These look like they've been going to the gym, like they're they're built.
Yeah.
They look like they're well fed, but it again bizarre that they're out there that size when what we're seeing all summer long are these jumbos. So talk me through like what were you doing to kind of get located and try to get on those fish, and were you fishing for them on the bottom, like similar to like sea bass? Like what was the kind of bait of choice and tackle of choice to get hooked on those things?
Well, you want to fish on a shoal or a rough or a raised area. You want to find a good spot on the map that kind of comes up where there's a bank. I like to find where there's a raised shoal. Now, look, you might mark a shoal. It's Latimer shoals or just any of the shoals past the fourth or third island. You can mark them just about anywhere. There's some shoals and even near the islands. But what you want to find is a drop off. And right where that drop off is right where you want to sit up on top of it and put your baits off the drop off. That's where the fish wait and ambush things that are washing up onto it. So the main thing is that when you're just two things at once, the shoal that you think was there where your mark is going to move. A lot of those shoals are sand and they're going to move. So where you were last year and it's not going to be the same. You want to find a depth you're comfortable with. I like anywhere between 35 feet. I like up to 22 feet. I've even fished 12, 13, 17, depends on the shoal that you're comfortable with, where you like to fish. And you anchor up on those. Those are anchor bottom fishing. You throw out big, heavy sinkers. You want to throw your pyramid sinkers out to your sides, and you want to throw your bank sinkers straight back because you're not going to, those are just going to sit there.
Hmm.
And your other ones you want to kind of anchor out to give you some spread, unless your current's too much anyway, then you're not going to hold them unless you get some really heavy sinkers. But you want to throw some big chunks of weight on there and some big chunks of bait. The bigger, if you're getting smaller fish or stingrays, your bait's too small.
Ah, okay.
That's all I got to say about that. You want to catch a fish with a big mouth? You better give him a big bait.
Yep, that makes sense. And what do you like to use? Cut mullet or
Honestly, our mate Russ he's on it all the time, so our bait's going to have a little advantage. Even myself, I get back to the dock and I'm throwing the net whenever I can. But yeah, we catch our own bait, so we're
yep.
getting fresh, big, giant cob mullet. We're getting bluefish at the piers and the dock.
Hmm.
And he gets a lot of it. I'm not doing it all the time. He's killer.
That's
Anyway,
awesome.
we rips them up, getting the bait for us, man. I like using big bluefish. I like using false albacore. I like for even that's for the drum. That's one of my favorite baits is the
Yeah.
false big. But I'm talking hunks, not like little shreds, not like little
Right.
pieces.
Well, they've got pretty tough skin too, which I imagine is helpful if, they get their mouth on a bait and they're kind of chewing on it. If it's like something loose, like a piece of croaker or whatever, like they might be able to bite it and pull it off. But that skin of that false albacore is going to be really tough and like hang on to the hook.
Bunker's my ultimate favorite, man.
Mm,
If you've caught your own bunker in a cast net and you're out in the ocean or you're in the bay or something where there's some, the size of them aren't even more than 6 inches now.
yep.
But used to get the giant ones out in the ocean or in the bay. Even if it's the ones you still have to use, you almost have to use a full one now.
Very
But
cool.
those are I like to use. And if you catch your own, it's always gonna have an advantage for two reasons. One, because it's fresh and bloody, and two, because it's like your own cooking, buddy. You caught it, you're
Hmm.
gonna taste
Yep.
good.
Yep. So speaking of cooking, all right. I always I'm like, if it's dinner time, I shouldn't look at Plain Hooky Charter's Instagram or Facebook because it's bound to be some delicious, delightful things happening in the kitchen. You did your sea bass the other night, and I was like, damn it, Bill, I really want to eat some now.
That's the spicy sea bass, buddy.
Spicy sea bass.
Yeah.
So talk me through redfish. This is not a common, we don't talk about cooking redfish too often on the show. Redfish is delicious in my opinion. I think it's a great, hearty fish to eat and cook with. Do you have any favorite ways that you like to prepare your redfish when you've caught some?
Man, I'm gonna give you my buddy Todd's recipe here,
All
man. He
right.
a lot of redfish, and I'll eat them. I like them, but here's a good recipe he gave me that works real good. He takes it and soaks it in Italian dressing for not very long. Not a marinade, but just enough to coat it for maybe 30 minutes, not more, maybe an hour tops. But most things you marinate for like an hour 30. This one's like a 30 to hour. It's just a quick little marinade, 30 something in there. Then you dip that in your breadcrumbs, and then you fry it.
Ah,
So you got a little bit of Italian flavor underneath the crumbs, and you got some nice panko crumbs on top of it, which is a flour. You don't have to actually. You know what? Once you've already dressinged it, you can still flour it, egg it, and then crumb it. But I would just go straight from the dressing. I would go
right
straight.
into the
From
panko and then
yeah,
into the fry.
that's
Okay.
probably what you're gonna do because it would hold the crumbs. It's got
Mm,
enough oil on there.
yeah. Well, I think one thing is true. There's a lot of fish out there right now, whether it's going to be hopping around near shore or at Sandbridge near False Cape, like you're talking about, or if we're going to be going out and trolling around and maybe try to go after some of those Cadillac mahi, like we talked about on the first segment. That got me fired up because, man, God, I could eat some mahi right now. You're taking me back to those tahi macos you fed me, man. They were so stinking good.
That's what I'm having for tonight. That's what I'm
You're
having.
making you're making them tonight?
I'm making them tonight. It's going.
Oh, baby, that's what I'm talking about.
Don't watch the story later. It's going down.
Yeah, yeah, I'll probably be over here eating a salad or something boring like a cheeseburger or something. But folks that are listening, they're like, man, I got to get out there and go after one of these target species, whether that's some sea bass or maybe the blue line for a little bit longer, or swordfish trip. I know you guys always got your walk on opportunities. Folks listening want to hook up with you and get booked and get hooked. What's the best way for them to contact you and make that happen?
You can give me a call on the cell phone or a text or a message at 757-619-3530. And I respond pretty quick unless I'm offshore. It's impossible. But I tell you what, if you also want to hit us with an email, you can go to playinhookycharters.com. It's PLAYINHOOKEY charters.com. And we also have our Instagram. You can check out the same thing, Playing Hooky Charters. We've got some Facebook you can check out if you want to see some videos or some stories or stuff like that. We're always putting up some recipes are coming soon in the cookbook, guys. They're coming. It's coming. I'm going to try to have it out by the spring of next year, so it's ready for Thanksgiving next year.
That's what we're talking about.
Published. I'm trying. That's my goal. I've said it out loud. Now I've done it. I've said it aloud again.
You got to make it reality now.
You
So
can't do anyone who doesn't do what you say you're going to do.
no, absolutely not. And again, folks talking about paying attention to the story, tell the listeners what you did today. You treated your little puppy, your sweet little puppy girl. What'd you do for her today?
She's been begging me and begging me. She told me if I got all the backyard cleaned up and stuff like that, that I could take her fishing. So she made me take her to Rudy Inlet and put the John boat out and do a little speckled trout fishing at sunrise this morning. And she ran around and looked at the birds and made me take her out front, look at the dolphins. She jumped on a bluefish when we got the bluefish in the boat. She had a good time doing that.
That's awesome. And what kind of dog is she? What's her name? And how old is she?
She is a black squirrel. Now she looks like a fuzzy little black squirrel, but she's a long haired Dotson, little eyebrows. Again, she's probably I've been telling people she's 12 and 13 probably for a couple of years, so she's probably a little older than that now.
Yeah.
But she's all that, man, a bag of chips.
Yep. Man's best friend right there. Well, I'm sure she thanks you very much for taking out for an adventure today. And it's been great hearing about your adventures and have you back on the show again, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for giving me a shout, man. Good talking with you, buddy. I'll have some more for you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Captain Bill. Y'all stick around for a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back with you here real soon. It's time we talked about catching some serious savings. Imagine harnessing the power of the sun to cut your energy bills and having a roof that's built to last. Convert Solar and Roofing specializes in top-notch solar installations and durable roofing solutions that stand up to the toughest elements. Their solar panels are designed to maximize efficiency, and their roofs are built with premium materials to ensure long-lasting protection. Whether you're out on the water or at home, their expert team ensures you're covered. As fellow anglers in the Lower Chesapeake Bay, the team at Convert Solar and Roofing cares about both sustainable living and sustainable fishing. So reel in those savings today and visit www.convert-solar.com or call 757-44-SOLAR. Make your energy and roof as reliable as your favorite fishing lure. Call Convert Solar and Roofing today. Pure Flat slick lures are tried, true, and guide approved. Slick lures catch big speckled trout, redfish, flounder, and more. You can cast them a mile, and they produce a highly erratic bait fish imitation with a twitching retrieve. The tournament winning slick has helped many anglers set personal best records. Whether you're fishing the OG slick, the smaller profile slick junior, or the versatile little slick, one is sure to find that unforgettable thump we're all after. Visit your local tackle retailer or pureflats.com for your favorite color and rigging combination. Go sling some slicks today. You can't catch them on the sofa. Okay, guys, we are going to jump into our final segment of the day. We are actually live with Captain Eric Myers on the creek right now. Welcome to the show, Captain Eric. How we doing?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Good. I see you've got the controller in your hand for your Minn Kota. What's the deal with that?
So definitely a game changer. Helps cover a lot of ground.
That's awesome. So you just installed that on your it's a 22-foot Sea Pro, right? 21?
Yeah, it's Sea Fox Bay Fisher.
Sea Fox, that's right.
Sea
Well,
Pro's Sea Fox, same thing.
same boat. Well, that's exciting to hear. You guys have been talking about putting that trolling motor on for a little while. So congrats, man.
It's definitely nice.
Who you got on the boat with you today?
Ryan Porter and Randy Morton. Bunch of
Well,
bunch of fish catchers, that's for sure.
yeah, Ryan served as your mate for quite some time, and then Randy, man, what a legend in the fishing community. All sorts of light tackle records for the sheep's head, and I swear every time I'm going fishing, Randy's either right behind me or already out there.
Yeah, you got to step up your game if you're gonna keep up with that guy.
That is a fact. Well, we want to talk about some speckled trout fishing. So, tell us what you guys are doing right now and where are you? What you throwing? What's going on?
So we're out here in the eastern branch of Lynnhaven, fishing around some grass and some docks for trout first thing in the morning, throwing topwater plugs, trying to get a bigger fish to eat.
Mm.
Typical way to catch a bigger one.
What time did you guys get started this morning?
We had a late start. We started at like 7:30.
Okay.
I worked all night, so I didn't want to get to the boat too terribly early.
Man. And for those that are listening that have never, gotten to hear your voice before, when you say worked all night, what were you doing?
I run a pilot boat, work for the pilot association, so worked
That's
12 hours from 3 to 3.
Shoo. That is some work. And if folks listening aren't familiar with the Pilot Association, that is when you look at the Chesapeake Bay, there are two shipping lanes that come in between the first and second and third and fourth island. And any vessel that comes into our bay, whether that's a naval vessel, Navy vessel, or shipping container, we the pilots run those boats in. So you drive the pilot boat to deliver the pilot to those ships. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. My
Man.
fancy Uber ride.
That's awesome. So let's dive into speckled trout. Our next segment after this, we're actually going to talk to the guys over at Long Bay about this Troutzilla tournament coming up. So speckled trout is kind of the hot topic right now. So you said you're in the eastern branch of the Lynnhaven River, and you're looking at some grass and some docks. So anything in particular that draws you to a specific bit of grass or dock? Are you looking at depth, temperature? What's your go-to to get located?
You know as well as I do, this year has been extremely warm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really put a damper on most of our bigger fish being caught. But in lieu of that, the spots you want to fish is anything with a tide break, anything that has more than like a 3 foot depth change somewhere in there that gives you a rip. We're fishing points and stuff right now. We're currently in like 7 foot, fishing in the 2-3 foot of water, and then fishing it off that little shelf off the side of the grass beds.
Okay, very cool. And what does Ryan have in his hands there in terms of his rod, reel, and lure? What's he using?
He's using a Rapala skitter walk, and then a 7 foot medium light spinning rod with 10-pound braid, 20-pound leader.
Okay, so 10-pound braid. Now, is that, I'm assuming that's intentional, and why is that? Why the 10-pound braid?
You can cast it a mile.
Got it.
Oh, Randy missed one.
Oh, this might
But
be my least favorite segment to ever record because I'm literally watching you guys fishing right now, and I'm sitting behind my desk. This is tough.
someone's got to do all that work so you can play during cobia season. Remember?
Yes, this is true. This is true.
Got to remember the end goal here.
Absolutely. Well, I don't want to jinx anything, but if somebody happens to hook up while we're recording here, I would love nothing more. So no pressure, Ryan and Randy, but get to work.
Yeah, you might as well just hand me that now.
Just get through that. Ryan's going to switch over to a popping cork with a DOA shrimp, and he's going to
Okay.
catch a fish for you in about, I don't know, half a cast.
All right, I like that. And what's Randy got there on the bow? What's he fishing with?
We're using all pretty much the same gear, I think. Skitter
Okay.
walk and light line. Trying to find a big one.
Just to kind of help visualize for those listening. So you guys are in about 7 feet of water. You're off of a bank a little ways, and you're casting into the shallow and working it back towards you into the deeper.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, I mean, the biggest thing, like anything in the river, is you gotta look for something that breaks the current up, and then a little bit of a depth change, and then always the bait. So
Okay.
you can find all three of those things. It's pretty much just like bass fishing.
When you say breaking the current up, so you picture like you're in 7 feet of water and there's, what, 2 or 3 foot depth, closer to the bank. Are you actually able to visually see the kind of tide rip on the surface there?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you're
See.
casting beyond that. Oh, okay. I see you're on a
The-
point right now. Yep.
The bank comes out, and this
Mhm.
is a big flat right here on this side.
Yep.
And then, over here we got about 7.5. We're currently in.
Okay,
2
so
foot.
guys, we're looking at a point, so a peninsula of land that's jutting out into the water a little ways. They're currently sitting in about 2 feet of water, and they're able to cast and cover the area that is deep and then shallow to where they are, and it's kind of breaking the current. So right now, you guys are pointed deadhead into that little piece of peninsula. Which way is the current running?
We have an incoming tide right now, so the current's going into the river
Okay. Okay.
off this point. So it's creating a big slough on the backside of this point.
Got it. Which is going to be almost like an eddy where maybe some bait fish would be kind of holed up. Oh,
And Ryan's on.
Ryan has a fish on. So where was he casting off of the boat?
So he was fishing. So you saw how we were fishing this 2 foot of water.
Hmm.
Oh.
What do we got there? We got a speckled trout.
Yeah, a little bitty guy.
I mean, you called that. So you switched over to the popping cork with the DOA shrimp, and then boom, hooked up.
Yeah, it's pretty much it's all you want on those rigs right now.
I had
Okay,
a bite before that too.
It's like bluegill fishing for kids.
that's
You can't
awesome.
go more than 2 casts without getting a bite.
All right, so talk me through where he's casting right now. So you got your bow kind of into that piece of that peninsula, and he's casting what, up towards the bank, or
He's actually casting out into the middle, fishing more or less the drop off.
okay,
Because we're sitting on the bottom.
move it.
he's on again.
Yeah. I told you with the popping cork, it's pretty much oh yeah, that's his.
Better fish. All right, guys, this is torture. Like I was saying, I'm sitting behind the desk. I'm watching
Did
Captain
it?
Eric get the net out. A little bit better fish here.
Bigger one to the day.
Little guy.
Oh, man, it came off. Great. My favorite speckled trout.
Oh, that
yeah.
looks more like a
14,
what,
15 incher.
Yeah.
16?
Yeah, somewhere in there. That's
Very
a
nice.
it's a keeper fish for someone looking to eat them.
Yeah, absolutely. And what
But,
is the harvest size for speckled trout right now?
I think it's 14 inches
Okay.
and 1/25 or 24. Is that right, Randy? 5 fish. Yeah, 5 and 1/25.
Got it. Okay.
24.
So I want to get clear on something. So the drop that you're fishing, if you're picturing we got, 2 foot dropping down to 7 foot, which way is the current running over that drop right now? Is it running from the deep to the shallow or from shallow to
Yeah,
deep?
it's running from the deep to the shallow.
Okay.
So it's pushed. So where he's fishing is pushing his bait up onto it.
up onto the flat. So he's casting into the deep and then working it kind of with the current back up onto the shallow.
Yep.
Got it.
With the popping cork and the shrimp, it's pretty easy fishing. You just throw it up current of you, and you basically let it do a real long drift right on down.
Okay.
And honestly, you could cast it and not even work the thing.
That's how I got that.
The fish typically just eat it.
Okay. And how long of a leader do we have coming off of that popping cork?
I think this one has a 1.5 feet.
Foot and a half. Okay. So even in that 2 foot shallow, you're still somewhat suspended up over the bottom there.
Yeah, so where he's starting his cast, it's probably 7 or 8 feet.
Got it. Okay.
And then it's getting pushed up into about 2 foot, 1.9, 2 foot.
And something tells me that Randy's not really interested in catching those 16 inchers and is probably still up there throwing that skitter walk, isn't he?
Yes. Yes. He's gonna catch a big one here in a second, I guarantee it.
I want to hear from Randy in a moment. Tell us a big speckled trout story.
You want to hear from Randy?
I want to hear from Randy. I want to hear a big speckled trout story here in a minute. And while he's getting ready to tell that story, Ryan, when you're seeing that popping cork go, are you swinging and setting a hook on a circle, or excuse me, on a J hook, or are you guys using circle hooks on those DOAs?
Those DOAs come with like a small J hook.
Okay, perfect.
So you can just reel to the bobber, and then once you get tight on it, I just set the hook.
Okay. Did you just miss a bite there while you were talking?
I had popped it. The shrimp came up on the surface, and the trout missed it.
Ah. Yeah, trout are ambush predators, aren't they? So you do get a lot of bite. Up there, he's on.
Yeah.
And he's off. So they like to ambush that bait. Is that right? So sometimes you'll feel a bite, but then maybe you're not hooking up because
Typically,
you missed.
They hit it hard whether they're missing it or not.
Got it. Okay.
A lot of times with the bigger fish on topwater plugs, you get a real big explosion and you don't connect at all.
Got it. I remember fishing down in Alabama for speckled trout with Captain Richard Rutland, and the joke was, hey, hook sets are free with these speckled trout. So every time you think you feel a bite, just go ahead and swing. Is that true? Okay.
You can't go wrong with J hooks. Not on the specs.
Got it.
Makes it really easy for everyone.
And then from a water temperature perspective, like right now, you said it's been kind of unseasonably warm. So like, is the air temperature?
Right now we're sitting at 64 degrees. Last year this month it was like 54.
Okay, that makes sense.
And
so, like
better class of fish.
Temperature wise, what is it outside right now?
I mean, Ryan's in shorts, so 75-ish.
Okay, so there's a pretty big difference there between the air temperature and the water temperature.
Look at this mullet got exploded on over there, Randy. Let's go investigate that.
So I want to hear from Randy about one of his favorite speckled trout stories. Let's hear from Captain Randy. For those that are listening, Randy has been around, since before the dawn of time, I think. And we got another fish on. But Randy has set out to set several records on light line and tackle for different species, and he can tell some fish stories.
He's got to write many of them. Randy, you want to tell any of them?
Mm-hmm.
You want to tell any of your fish stories?
Not this morning.
Not this morning.
Not this morning. All right.
Wait till we got a picture for him.
He's in the zone right now.
He's in the zone. We're not going to disrupt that. And it looks like the food of choice this morning is a Pop-Tart. So I guess that helps catch some speckled trout.
Come on. Hands are slipping. Wow.
Again,
Right now, if you want to catch trout, it's definitely a quantity, not a quality.
got it. Okay.
There are about 60 small ones for one decent one.
Okay. So if I wanted to really kind of zone in on trying to catch that bigger one, you're suggesting that we maybe stick to that skitter walk or that larger, swim twitch bait. Any change in location if you're going to try to focus on a bigger one, or just stick it out?
You usually stick it out, wait till the water's a little higher. Sometimes that helps a lot. We're fishing pretty much a dead low, just started coming in.
Okay.
Which sometimes is really good for me. We catch a lot of fish because they're pushed out of some of the spots they can hide. So they're kind of stuck into these little points and eddies and stuff.
Got it. And
so you'll have a higher concentration of bigger ones.
Okay. And do you prefer an incoming tide versus an outgoing tide for speckled trout?
This time of year, when you're coming out to try throwing topwater, it really doesn't matter to me. But
Mm-hmm.
typically the end of the incoming is
The end.
usually the best.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Bait's a little bit more stirred up, and you got some water into
Well, the
some of
water
those.
is usually a lot cleaner, and
Mm-hmm.
you got a little bit more area to fish.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to leave you guys to it because it looks like you guys have your hands full, and we've definitely learned a lot of really cool information. And again, it was absolute torture to sit here and watch you guys catch some fish while I stare through the interwebs. But for those that are listening that are going to want to get out there and get on some of these speckled trout and enjoy that new trolling motor, what's the best way for them to contact you and get booked on Heads and Tails?
They can either give me a call or you can just book direct through my booking site on
Very cool.
Valley Prep.
Valley Pro. Okay. And we'll drop those in the show notes. And then what's that phone number if they want to contact you?
It is 757-573-9569.
Awesome. Very cool. Ryan, good luck out there today, bud.
Thanks, man.
Randy, we're
He's
gonna
gonna need
get we're gonna get you back on one of these days here soon, Randy, and hearing Fish Story when you're not in the zone.
it.
All right, y'all be good out there. Folks, stick around for a word from our sponsors, and then we're gonna dive into a conversation.
That was cool.
What do we miss?
Randy missed another one on the top.
Oh no. But yeah, we're going to be back here soon, and we're going to dive into a conversation with the guys from Long Bay Point and Tackle talking about the Troutzilla tournament that is happening here. You can sign up tomorrow or Saturday, so stay tuned for that conversation. We'll be back with you real soon. Tired of battling salt corrosion on your boat, trailer, and reels? Meet Salt's Gone, your ultimate solution. This powerful, instantly acting chelating agent tackles salt and brine with ease, featuring corrosion inhibitors to protect against future damage and surfactants for a thorough clean. Salt's Gone is pH neutral, making it safe for all boat materials: metal, glass, paint, vinyl wraps, and more. Highly concentrated, just 1 gallon creates 100 gallons of ready-to-use solution. Apply it with or without running water. It's perfect for any situation. Use code GreatDays10 to save 10% at saltsgone.com. Or if you need faster delivery, use Amazon or your favorite retailer. Sam Rust Seafood, your locally trusted source for premium wholesale seafood. Servicing customers from Hampton Roads down through the Outer Banks, Richmond, and surrounding areas, including Fredericksburg, Charlottesville, and Lynchburg, for over 80 years. Committed to the highest standards in the industry, Sam Rust distributes the best of the ocean directly to your restaurant, hotel, or grocery store on time and at a great price. Visit samrust.com to discover how quality, tradition, and sustainability come together. So don't cuss, call Sam Rust. All right, guys. Well, welcome to this special segment. I am extremely excited to introduce some folks to you guys. Those listening to the show, if you're from the Hampton Roads or Virginia Beach area, you've heard these names, you've probably seen their faces. But welcome, Connie and Brady with Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle. How you guys doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey,
Great.
hey, we're doing great. Glad to be here. Exciting to talk to the audience, talk about some fishing, which I don't know a lot of, but thankfully we got you, Luke, and Connie here, to keep us honest here.
That Brady's a fast learner.
Yep, and I also understands he likes fast cars, which we'll get into in just a moment. Want to get to know you guys a little bit. Some folks have maybe never heard your name or heard your voice. So, Connie, why don't we start with you? Just tell us, briefly about your kind of journey in the bait and tackle world and what your passion is with fishing.
Well, if I go back to when my neighbor just cranked an outboard motor outside my house, I've been fishing. I mean, when I was in elementary school, as soon as I got home, I'd grab a can of corn and head for the creek. As my dad fished. Then there was a time where I was traveling a lot for about close to 30 years. I didn't get a chance to do much fishing. I got out of that in the 90s, and then all of a sudden I found myself running Bubba's Marina in 1992. So I've been on the creek there since 92.
Wow. That's a long time. I mean, taxes were low, gas was under $1. I mean, that seems like ages ago. So you've been doing this for a long time. And fast forward into, 2023 and 24, you guys are a household name. We really couldn't exist fishing in the Lynnhaven without y'all. And then how does Brady enter the picture, as part of this, renewed vision and future for Long Bay?
Yeah, how does Brady enter the picture? That's always the question here. So I grew up in Kempsville and went to Fort Union Military Academy because I was a very good boy. And my dad raised me pretty much solely, and he he passed away about 7, 8 years ago in Q Master Billiards. So I worked for him till I was probably 20, 21 years old, and he fired me like the day before Christmas, which is okay because we're Jewish, right? But he fired me the day before Christmas, and he said, "Brady, you'll never amount to blah blah blah." I won't say the words, and it was really kind of the kick in the butt I needed to grow up and get my ducks in a row. So I started on this journey of getting into digital opportunities, if you will, with web development marketing and all that good stuff. And this is, 26 years ago now.
Mm.
There wasn't a lot of schooling back then. So I had to school myself, and I sat in front of a computer for 18 to 20 hours a day trying to figure out the World Wide Web and how I can perfect it. So I started doing web development and such. And thankfully, fast forward 8 or 10 years later, I was fortunate enough to find myself in a pickle trying to solve a very challenging integration for one of our customers, who their largest customer actually was the Commonwealth of Virginia. So we did this integration they needed. It was brutal. We figured out how to make a 6 or 9 month project, make it be able to accomplish that in like 60 to 90 seconds. So we got out of the web development world pretty quickly. And at this point, I was actually living in Cape Charles, Virginia, which we'll talk about in a second with fishing. But ultimately, we went down this journey of digital transformation of electronic transactions between disparate systems, kind of solving challenges between buyers and sellers that are trying to do business together. So I was very fortunate there and led that company, co-founded it, and served as CEO for about 10 years. I hadn't had an exit about 3 years ago. And now at this point, again, I got a long journey. I was actually in Charlottesville, and that was our headquarters up there. So I wanted to come back home to Virginia Beach. It had been 20 years or so, and bought a house in Allenton, right on Broad Bay. And
There's fish there.
there is fish there, and I didn't really realize that till like a year later, which I'll get to in a minute. But I know that was a really quite a quick journey of business and my journey. But ultimately, I found myself in Virginia Beach, started playing around with fishing a little bit, not really getting too very serious with it. It was just, maybe every other week or something, go out there and cast a couple of lines and, have a cocktail or something. And I was now retired from my technology company, and I've been racing cars, right, all around the country, in IMSA, which is like the top dog of road racing for sports cars, right? So I was racing in Porsches and BMWs and Mustangs, and then I settled into an Aston Martin, which was up there at our community event that we had at the beginning of the
Oh
summer.
yeah, I remember that. We got to see that. We enjoyed the hot dogs and whatnot.
Yeah.
So when that was happening, Connie's been in like OG of the creek, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like this kind of beautiful like analog and digital sort of union that's going on here, where like Connie's got all this tribal knowledge and inherent wisdom of the creek. And I remember in a business book one time there was this thought that like the best unions are when the older generation listens to innovations from the younger generation, and the younger generation listens to kind of the wisdom of the older generation, which is kind of what's going on here with this fishing union. So tie me together. How does you in the technology business and then racing cars and then getting
Yeah.
landed on the creek, how do
Yeah.
you guys come together and now are running Long Bay?
Yeah. So 1 year ago, I got in a bad accident and I got a concussion, right? And I was laid up for a couple weeks. And I started going out after like 2 weeks down to the dock. I couldn't really go anywhere, but I could make my way down to the dock. And I started fishing, and I was catching speckled trout and puppy drum. I'm like, this is incredible. And it's this time of year, right? Which we all know the creek is on fire with fun fishing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I found myself going back and forth to the tackle shop. My wife actually took me a couple of times because I wasn't supposed to drive. And and that really got me interested in fishing. So I was out there doing it, as hard as I could, and I had this like, and I still do this today. I have this thing where I'll go down to the end of the dock. It's a 650-foot walk down to the end of the dock. I'll cast 10 times in different areas. If I don't get a bite, I'll come back up to the house. I'll try again in an hour or so, right? And I keep doing that, right? Like today I've gone a couple times. I got skunked. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's this podcast. I'm not really sure what the problem is. But anyway, found myself fishing and having a good time. Um, and then I came to this realization that, I'm 47 years old. I don't need to be retired. Q Masters is in really great hands with my family running that. My tech company, I'm just sitting on the board now, and I needed something to do. So I was talking to a friend of mine who's in yacht sales business over there next to Long Point. He says, I hear, they might be selling over there. So, and this is like, I don't know, now it's like January or something. And I walk over, I was like, hey, are you guys selling? He's like, yeah, I think, other partner here, he wants to retire. He's been doing it since 1998. I said, well, where are you at? With things. He said, we're working on a deal and, I don't know what's going on. I said, well, I'll match it just like that. Right. And here we are. Right. So, we closed in May of last year. And Connie has really been awesome in terms of embracing ideas, setting me straight at times when when it's needed because I need to be reeled in. No pun intended. All the puns. Like,
That is a very much a fishing pun. So,
yeah.
Connie, what's it been like? You've been running the shop for a long, long time now. You've got this vibrant, digital capable person. We've obviously been seeing some cool things. For you, what's this change been like going from a former partner to a new partner, and here we are.
It's like it's hard to say this, but it's kind of like coming out of the dark ages again. When I for the first 30 years before I got into this business, I was an audio engineer. So I was all about electronics. And then I went through I left it, started in the fishing industry. Every now and then I'll go back and check on it, and it's jumped leaps and bounds. And now Brady is actually showing me the technology that can be used in this industry now to help us keep the store stocked, keep it just make things a lot easier than they used to be. Less actually sitting down and writing it all on paper,
Right.
and just it's amazing the amount of time it saves now.
And I'm seeing how it transforms the kind of the customer experience. Walking in, things are easier to find. The store layout is different. We've got digital signage. It's making the experience as a customer a little bit easier too. And one of the things that I love that you guys are doing to kind of segue into the meat and potatoes of today's conversation is kind of engaging the community and helping us with these fishing tournaments, especially to help the kids have something fun to do because there's such a huge population there, in the creek, and we're trying to be advocates for engaging kids into a healthy, exciting hobby, which is fishing. It's going to, probably help keep some kids away from some trouble and show them something that they can enjoy for the rest of their lives. And I think that that's incredibly cool. So, I want to understand a little bit about what's going on with this Troutzilla speckled trout tournament that we have going on. What are the kind of key things that if folks are listening that are either wanting to participate as an adult, which is a paid entry position, or youth? And I want to be clear about the youth. So is that 18 and under?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
So if you're 18 years old or younger, you're in the free youth division, which is again incredible that you guys are extending that generosity. But let's just really quick hit on some of the sponsorships. And for those that are going to participate and enter, what they're going to get just for simply entering. What do we have going on there?
Yeah, so I guess real quick on the community, we all know that small business is at the core of any growing community, right? And it's our fiduciary duty, if you will, to ensure that from our store perspective, that we are providing for the community. We're not just a shop that's trying to, get people to buy things. We want to provide for the community. The whole idea with the, Lynnhaven Troutzilla tournament is, really came from our customers. Again, listening to our community, those saying that, hey, we'd like to have a Lynnhaven only speckled trout tournament. We know there's other areas of water that produce larger and larger speckled trout. We'd like to have, we live here, we're also fortunate to be in this area. So I wrangled in a couple of great sponsors with the Aberdeen Barn, my favorite steakhouse in the world. Anybody who knows me, I probably invited you. If not, we should go because I've been going since I was a kid. It's great. And they were generous to give us $30 gift certificate for every angler that enters, which is super duper awesome. right? And then Q Master Billiards, I know a couple people over there, and I've got free pool cards that allow people to go into Q Masters and pay no entry. It's like a $40 value. And those that don't know Q Masters, it's the largest billiard room in the country, close to 60 employees, 25,000 square feet, 70 pool tables, 2 full bars, complete restaurant, the whole 9 yards. It's a really cool place, and it's packed, waiting list every night. It's really a cool place.
That's
So we
awesome.
had to get them, and then one of our industry partners, Lee Fisher Sports, is throwing in some goodies that will be given away, whether that's to winners of different divisions or as signups. And then good friend Aaron Beatson over at Cobia Killer has donated some cool stuff, mostly for the kids, and the kids are eating it up and they love it, right? So the Troutzilla tournament's coming up November 10th through December 10th. Registrations have been going on online. People register online, and this is actually a self-service tournament where people are going to submit their catches through an interactive form, bringing
Very
this
cool.
world to the fishing world, so that every angler that's competing knows that Connie caught a 32-inch speckled trout. So
Game
if
over.
28, just go ahead and throw it back. So it's gonna be nice to know who's caught what, where.
I want to pause on that. So that's really key. Again, back to kind of bringing in technology. So right now I'm looking at the Troutzilla tournament online in the web page that you go to, Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle on Facebook. You find the event, Lynnhaven Troutzilla, and then you click into it. You're actually seeing a real time, based on angler submission. So if I'm a registered angler, I'll have this link to, update a catch using my, special board that we're going to get, the Lee Fisher board, and then it will update in real time. So I'll be able to see, basically the current live leaderboard.
Really cool. I think, this is, and I think this same format's going to apply maybe next year to a puppy drum tournament in the spring or something. I don't know if we
Very
can
cool.
do it with like cobia events and such, but who knows, right? And I think that this is a great opportunity to, save fish,
Hmm.
which is awesome. Keep people interested, know what they're needing to target, and really just have a good time. The youth event, we've been doing a lot of events at Long Bay Point. Last week we had the Hooked on Halloween Kids Day Deal event. We're trying to get more kids into community fishing, and they're having a blast. They're catching all types of fish, and they're sharing, some that might be 4 or 5 inches and some that might be 3 or 4 feet. It's awesome, having a good time. I had a mom write me the other night, and she said it's all he ever wants to talk about and do. Well, she's happy. He's out of the house. He's not sitting on
Hey,
the computer.
it's better. Yeah, it's better than the video gaming online. Everything has a place, but there's a it's good when the addiction results in like fish tacos as opposed to like burnout dopamine addiction. So definitely a cool thing that you guys are helping them with that. So Connie, when it comes to special speckled trout, and they are special fish, but when it comes to speckled trout, the popularization of release over 20, which is about helping to preserve, the population of fish. Why is that important to you in terms of you guys are putting on a tournament, but it's a release only tournament. So why is that important to you, and why is it important that we protect speckled trout as a species?
Well, it's the same thing with any species. There has to be some control over it. Of course, the larger the fish get, the more eggs they lay. The older the fish, the more healthier the babies that come from their eggs are.
Mm,
And it's amazing too, because we've had so many freezes in the last 6 or 7 years where everybody says, "Oh, I saw all these dead trout," and I try to explain to people, leave them be. It's amazing how many of them will come back.
oh wow, I would never guess that. So you're talking about they're kind of like frozen, immobile, like up on the banks or whatnot in shallow water. Leave them
They can, yeah,
alone.
exactly.
They'll respawn. There's your
Yep.
video
They
game
eventually,
reference.
when the water warms up, it's just they become so lethargic, they just lay there. They look dead, but they're not.
Oh wow.
And then maybe, I don't know what the percentage is on the recovery of that, but when we had these major kills, everybody goes, "We're going to have a horrible speckled trout season." And then I'm like, "How many trout did you catch today?" "Oh man, we probably had to throw back, or we let go 20, 30."
Right.
I'm like, well, I guess it's not the kill wasn't as bad as you thought.
Right, right. There's always going to be that sort of biomass that works down and eventually into the Lynnhaven. And going back to a conversation we had with Chris Ludsford of Pleasure House Oyster Company, he talked about the differences since the new Lesnar Bridge, like the cubic volume, the cubic feet volume of water coming in and out of the Lynnhaven now is so much greater. So I think we're watching in real time as it kind of adjusts the fishery year over year. And I know Brady's been real excited about, the striper are going to come back, the striper are going to come back. And, the reality is that they probably could and maybe will, because again, the ecosystem is changing, which again puts it back, responsibility on us as the fishermen and the kind of stewards of this fishery. We have to make these good decisions to participate in sustainable practices, which is why I'm grateful that this is a release tournament. So folks are going to get a $30 gift certificate just for signing up. They're going to get a $40 value of play for 4 people at Q Master Billiards to play some pool. And the tournament's going to run from November the 10th through December the 10th, correct? 1 month.
Yes.
And then how do we sign up? If we want to get signed up, what's the process for getting signed up, and when can we pay for our entry fee?
The links are plastered on every one of our social media sites. So it's at Long Bay Point. There's an E at the end of point on any of the social handles, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter or X and so forth. Navigate to the website where they can do all their signups and read all the rules and have a good, honest, and fun community event.
Absolutely. And I think we can actually come on site to pay that entry fee on Friday, November the 8th, and Saturday, November the 9th, from what time to what time?
That's right. So 7 to 10 a.m. on both those days. We're just having a check-in. It's not really like a meeting. And we do know that a lot of people might be traveling and so forth, and we just popped this up 10 days ago. Just if you can send somebody, that would be great. That's all you need to do. Send somebody with your entry fee. Those in the youth, they don't really have to come out. If they need help with, measuring devices and such, we can help them with that. We've got some free stuff that they can use. We're not enforcing some of the rules for the youth.
Right. It's free entry, just fun. But for those that are paying the $100, we need to get our Lee Fisher measuring board, which is going to be the official measuring board that your pictures must be taken on. Read the rules. Get registered online ahead of time. You'll find it in any of the socials. We'll pop it into the show notes here for the podcast, and then get out there on Friday the 8th or Saturday the 9th to pay your money and get your board, and then you're actually ready to rock and roll. And I got to say, some weather patterns have been fantastic right now, and we're seeing those kind of, we'll call them yin and yang sort of days, where during the daytime, the water is actually cooler than the outside air temperature. And then in the evening, the inverse is true. And so you're seeing some really cool, predictable cycles of when those speckled trout are available to go after. So now's the time to get involved, because this weather window could change. In December, it could be tougher. So you want to get registered right now to get out there and have some fun. As we kind of wrap up this special segment, I also want to thank you guys for becoming a sponsor of the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report. It's, guys like you supporting these sort of things that make it free for our audience each week to be able to have this great content, get engaged, get to know the captains, learn things that we didn't know before, and hopefully use that information to go out and be more effective and successful on our next fishing trips. So guys, thank you so much for hopping on the show and talking to us. Any wise words, Connie, for those of us that maybe are brand new to speckled trout fishing? You've been around since, before fax machines for sure. I'm just kidding. What are some of your go-tos when it comes to going for speckled trout?
Well, the biggest thing you can do for any kind of fishing is you have to be so positive you're going to catch fish that you catch fish.
Mm.
If you think negative, then you'll constantly give up and want to constantly move. And especially with speckled trout, patience is everything. You could fish in one hole for them for 5 hours, and the bite might be 30 minutes out of that 5 hours.
Ah, wisdom. That reminds me. So Brady was texting me the other night when he was catching a fish, and so I went on to my Hilton's Real Time Navigator subscription, one of our other gracious sponsors, and I looked at the moon phases to understand. Okay, well, you go out to your dock every couple of nights, and sometimes you're successful and sometimes you're not. Why? And we're kind of at the tail end of a moon phase where there hasn't been a lot of moon, and we're on the verge of a new moon. And so these speckled trout have had many nights in a row where they haven't had light from the moon to feed at night. And so there's a greater chance they're going to be more active during the day. So just kind of cool to put that piece of the puzzle together. And especially the young kids that are listening, a lot of fishing is kind of data collection. And then, like Connie was saying, you put that data collection together with a positive mindset and your appropriate, toadfish or rod and reel, bait and tackle from Long Bay, and you're going to go out there and you're going to have some fun. So again, all the information is going to be in the show notes. Connie and Brady, I cannot thank you guys enough for your partnership and your time today to talk to our audience a little bit about what's going on. So we'll look forward to seeing you Friday and Saturday at the shop to get registered. And again, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to hang tight for a word from our sponsors, making this show free for us each and every week. And we'll be right back with you here real soon. Did you know every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack or stroke? In that moment, every second counts and every critical decision matters. Air Medcare Network's air ambulance providers can provide life-saving care directly to those in need at a moment's notice. With 320 locations across 38 states, they're the largest air ambulance membership network. Rest assured, they've got you and your entire household covered. Membership is just $99 a year or just $79 for seniors. Visit gdo.deals/airmedcare to enroll. So that's going to wrap it up this week. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, to get your free AFTCO Camo Sunglasses Cleaning Cloth, just text the acronym LCBFR to 779-345-2918 to get your promo code and be added to our email list so we can send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them and be safe out there.